Welcome to the Odds Checker preview of the US PGA Championship at Bellerive. My name is George Elek. I'm joined by Odds Checker tipster Niall Lyons, hot off a pretty successful weekend at the Open Championship a couple of weekends ago, backing Molinari and Xander Schauffele as well got a place. I think fair to say you were almost a bit annoyed with the outcome there. With Schauffele the better situation.
Yeah, it was just one of those dream books to have, like going into the last round. It was a big cash out. I remember wherever placed the bets, and it just worked out perfectly in the end. Well, obviously, the two golfers that I was hoping for Schauffele, but you know, you can't complain, can you?
No, well, I think anyone who listened to that last podcast or watched the video or whatever, or read your tipping article, will surely be tuning in again today to hear your pearls of wisdom ahead of the final major of the calendar year. Firstly, as ever, let's talk about the course. Bellerive, who I don't think many people know much about. I think the last PGA tournament there was back in 2008, the BMW Championship. So what should people be looking for? What kind of a player do you think would fit going well around this course?
Yeah, it's a difficult one just because there hasn't been that many tournaments played there. As you say, 2008 was the last relevant event there. I think it held a senior PGA Championship and then a PGA back in 1985 as well. So there's not an awful lot to know about it, but on the face of it, it looks straightforward enough course. Certainly to analyse. I think off the tee is where the big problems are going to be. You know, there's a creek that runs through, I think, about 9 of the 18 holes, and that's going to come into play on a lot of tee shots. And I think that's where it'll be won and lost. Now, looking back at the BMW in 2008, it was basically, you know, if you were in the middle of the fairway, you could attack the greens, and there's like different shelves to the greens. There's a lot of contours, and I think if you play from the cut and prepared in the fairway, you can attack the flags, and then it's basically just a matter of holding a couple of putts. So on the face of it, it looks like a straightforward, almost regular PGA Tour course, and I don't think you're going to look an awful lot more into it.
It's interesting because I've read some previews saying that because of the undulating greens, it's very important to be a good putter to basically avoid those 3 putts over long distance. But then at the same time, you can argue that it's more important to be a better iron player so that you don't give yourself those long putts to have to make. Yeah,
well, that's where I think it'll be won and lost. I think, you know, approaching the green just from tee to green, you know, obviously being a good putter helps, but putting's a strange thing to kind of analyse going into events because you just have one good week putting and you could win the event. Like, bad putters win events all the time, so you can't just look at a stat and look at the top 20 best putters in the tour and think, oh, they're going to be the ones who, you know, are contending this week. So I do think from tee to green basically, and you know, looking back to 2008, an interesting stat, you've got Vajegas won it, Stephen Ames, Furyk, Tim Clark, there were other names in the top 10, and they all finished in the top 20 in strokes gained approaching the green that season. So that, you know, that backs up my point that I just think, you know, it'll be one basically from tee to green. And
any benefit for the players who are a bit longer off the tee, or do you think it's just keeping the ball on the fairway on the short stuff?
Yeah, as always, you know, the game's changed since 2008 too, like, which is important to say. And you know, bombers do dominate plenty of tournaments, and yeah, length off the tee certainly isn't gonna harm you. And you know, you've got McIlroy, for example, who can bomb it off the tee, but his approach play isn't that great at the minute. You know, so you've got things like that the way up. But you know, obviously, the closer you are to the green and the higher your ball flight able to land it on the slopey greens closer to the pin, the better, you know.
And again, reading some other previews, I'm interested to know how you look at stuff like this, where there's been talk that the fairway grass isn't, I can't pronounce it because it's a really long, complicated word, but it's a different one to usual PGA. There aren't very many courses that have that grass, the fairway, and a lot of players complain that it can cause flyers from the fairway. Do you look at that at all when you're weighing this up, or do you think that's just another kind of facet that isn't actually as important as some other things you can look at when weighing up who you're going to back?
Yeah, a lot of previews do tend to study the grass an awful lot. It's not my style, I have to say. You know, obviously you mentioned this as a different grass. It's not used that often. I think Eastlake maybe has it, and maybe the St Jude as well. But it's not something that I put an awful lot of weight on. Like, you know, if you hit the ball in the fairway, is a different type of grass going to make a big difference to your wedge shot? I don't think so. Obviously, you can look at these trends and see who plays well on certain grasses, and for sure, if it can back up your opinion on who's going to win, or all the better. But it's not something I primarily look to when previewing an event.
Well, speaking as a pretty ropey golfer, I'm now going to start using the grass as my excuse whenever I start playing bad. I'm going to blame it on the grass and move to a new course. Let's get into the tips, and these will obviously be on site very, very soon. I think they may already be on site at the time of recording. A fair few point stakes, Niall, this weekend. I hope you're not getting too cocky on us after the Open, but definitely a headline tip, and it's 5 points each way. We don't see many of those coming through. 5 point each way, and it's on the favourite.
Yeah, there is a lot of points stake this week, but then again, with the place terms out there on offer, I think it would be silly not to.
Yeah.
And the most attractive of them all for me is Dustin Johnson. He's had a great, slight lull in the middle of the season, but generally speaking, a great season. He started off in unbelievable fashion in Hawaii, blitzing the field there. And then won the St Jude, and most recently Canada a couple of weeks ago. He tops the main stats that I really like this week: strokes gained off the tee and strokes gained tee to green. And he hits the ball. I think one of the advantages with Dustin this week is, I mentioned the creek that meanders its way through the course, and I think just with a bit more of attention required to the tee shot, I think it concentrates Dustin's mind in a way. Like, I've always thought, you look at Shane Lowry as well, you wouldn't normally think would play well on the tighter courses, but you've got Wentworth and a few others he's played well on. Firestone, I think Trees and like somewhere to aim at concentrates the mind, even though you imagine with a swing that he wouldn't be the best of drivers. But I think an ounce of danger and something to fly concentrates Dustin's mind, and I think he just squeezes that ball off the tee left or right, and off the tee I just think he'll have a huge advantage this week. And his wedge play and approach play has improved so much down the last couple of years. The big question mark's the putter. I think he changed it in the middle of last week, and he had a decent weekend and finished very strongly at Firestone last week. I think he reached almost single figures in the final round from absolutely nowhere. So
does that concern you though a little bit? I mean, you look at that final round, and obviously he shot very, very low indeed. But when the pressure was off and he wasn't really in contention, do you still give that as much weight as you would maybe a round like that when he's in the hunt to win it?
Does Dustin ever feel any pressure anyway?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, people certainly can shoot better rounds over the weekend whenever they're not in contention, just with the shackles off a bit. But I don't think that really applies to Dustin. And you give it a right rattle on Sunday, and he's got 2 wins and 3 top threes in his last 5 starts, very similar to the kind of form Molinari brought to the Open. And we were back in Molinari at 33s, and this is the number 1 golfer in the world. It's sitting at around 9 or 10 to 1. I think it's pretty decent.
Absolutely. So Dustin Johnson, I think there's 10 to 1 available at the time of recording, but Paddy Power are playing 10 places, and he is 9 to 1 there. So if you do want to back Dustin, have a look on the odds checker site before you do so to make sure you're getting the best price. You'll see all the place terms there as well, and it is a headline 5 points each way from Niall on DJ. Next up, a couple of 2 pointers each way, and we'll start with a shorter price one, and a player who's really knocking on the door of winning his first major. Obviously very unlucky in the US Open and played very well at times at least in the Open Championship, and that's Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah, he just continues to impress me. His form 18 months ago I thought maybe wouldn't last. Speaking to a couple of friends back home, or a couple of punters, about 2.5 years ago, I think I had backed him going into the final round of some event, and he led it, and he was absolutely stone useless, in the final 18 holes, and I said to myself, he's going to be one just to keep off the list. He's never going to do it. And
now tipping up at 28 to 1 in a US PGA.
Yeah, maybe I need my head examined, I don't know. But I think getting married and having a kid and that kind of thing is
growing his hair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It settles some guys, I don't know. Maybe that's a big factor, but his golf over the last 18 months has been absolutely unbelievable, and just continues week to week. And I always kind of have reservations about European Tour players going over to America and how they're going to do, and I don't know how, but he's performed unbelievably well this year, and obviously he's got his win in Abu Dhabi, but he's been top 20 in all the majors this year. It was a major return for Fleetwood. And again, a tee to green course, that's exactly where you look to Fleetwood if you're looking to back him. So the price isn't anything special, I don't think. I think the price is about right, around 28s. But it's just everything. He's a good putter too, like, you know, on his day. So I think if he can hit the ball in the fairway, like, his approach play is pretty good. So yeah, I think everything points to another, at least a top 20 in this, and hopefully better.
And when you're looking at him, you said the price is about right, but surely the way he kind of conducted himself in the US Open, where he was, I mean, except for that, obviously that missed putt, which he must play in his mind over and over again, which probably would have got him in the playoff. Surely the way he conducts himself around the course and the way he can chase down shows that maybe he's not the player he was 18 months ago, and that must give you a bit of confidence going into the weekend.
Yeah, he's definitely upped his game, and whether he's still to get his win in America, which is the negative point for me, and almost put me off, almost kept him off my list, you know. But nevertheless, his results in America are absolutely superb, and 14th at Firestone last week was a bit of a disappointment, seeing he went out with Poulter in the last group on the Saturday. He was just a bit disappointing. But I just think a major win is the next progression, obviously, but similar to Molinari again, it's just that form, and these European players coming into form in a Ryder Cup year, playing out of their skin, and he just looks one I think will probably contend this week.
Another player who has won on the PGA Tour a fair bit, especially one big win this year, is Webb Simpson, who's the other one you've tipped up. 2 points each way as well, which is a decent sized stake for a player who's around about the 60-1 mark. Yeah,
and we backed him, of course, at Sawgrass too, which means we can reinvest some of the cash in this. But he's another one who's had a great year. He's, you know, just ever since the anchor ban, the putting come in, he's struggled badly, but now he's, you know, the way he won at Sawgrass, you were looking at him stand over each putt thinking he's going to hold this. You know, he had the look, of somebody who's going to hold putts, which is great again for him, like, because when he came on the scene, like around 2012, 2013, I think he won the money list and all, when he was close to winning it. Maybe Donald pipped him to the money list. But he was playing some exceptional golf back then and looked a proper player. And the Sawgrass win this year just backs up, you know, what he was doing those years ago, and maybe just the putter was the main difference. He's in the top 20 in strokes gained approaching, which is the stat that I mentioned, referred to the BMW in 2008. And he's just had generally a great year, and back inside the top 20 in the world, which is a big jump for him now. And on the fringes, probably will make the Ryder Cup team too. So it's, you know, this is one of those solid years, and I think Tee to Green's always the Tee to Green course is always where I look to him too. Hence why I backed him at the players. Just keeping the ball in play is so important there. And if he does the same again this week, if he plays anywhere near the way he played at those 72 holes at Sawgrass, you know, I think he could win it.
Do you think there's any credence to the idea that maybe American golfers are more motivated for the US PGA and the US Open? Obviously, American golfers had a big stranglehold on the US Open for a long time. American golfers do seem to win the US PGA more often than European golfers. Does that come into your thinking at all, or for these players, the majors, and the money coming along, it means they're all as motivated as each other?
It doesn't really come into my thinking, but I think you're right, and you know, especially with the Open Championship, that, you know, Americans come over and plenty don't give it enough attention. Like you see, even like Dustin Johnson, his tactics at Carnoustie were
Koepka as well, just gave the big stick out in every hole.
I don't know what they were trying to achieve, or the point they were trying to make. They were just, you know, bombing off everything. It was never going to be the tactic around there, and it's just this. There's a bit of a poor attitude, to be fair, I think. Anyway, like, it's not just a bad game plan, it's a bit of a bad attitude. It's not respecting really, you know, what the game that's needed to be played on those links courses. But plenty of other Americans plenty don't come. You have the opportunity to come as well. Plenty don't come over to play the Open just because simply they don't like it, and maybe the weather doesn't suit. But I don't look to Americans in particular, like on the American majors, just thinking they'll pay more attention to it. A major's a major at the end of the day for them all.
One player who you've tipped up. The next three are all Americans. And one of them listeners may not know a great deal about in Aaron Wise or Wise. What can you tell us about him, and why have you tipped him up to do well here? I
really like Aaron Wise. I think he's a brilliant prospect. He won the NCAA Championship in 2016. Tiger and Phil and plenty of others have won that. And I think, as I've said in the preview, I think he's probably the most exciting golfer to win that after Tiger. I backed him personally, you know, didn't tip him up, backed him a couple of times at the start of the year, you know, around the 500 to 1 mark in the machine. He went very close for me at the Wells Fargo. and then won the following week when I wasn't on.
Oh, no.
I think he turned up at 40 to 1 at the Bar Nelson, and I couldn't go in at that odds, having backed him, 500 plus the week before. But he's another. He's had a great season. Obviously, won the Bar Nelson second at the Wells Fargo. He's just got the talent to do something really special, and I think in the mould of maybe not as good as Spieth, but just the career progression, and he won a Web.com event, and now he's already won basically his first full season on the tour. So I think he's a special golfer, and as I also wrote in the preview, I think he's a top 5 player in the world in the future. So the 3-figure price speaks to me.
Do you care that he's 22 years old, that he's got little major experience, or do you think that's why we're getting the price we're getting?
No, that could be even better. I think he won't fear anything. The likes of Schoflab going in over the weekend in the Open too. He performed excellently. I think he's only 24, and I heard an interview with him on the Saturday night going into the Sunday of the Open, saying that he was as nervous as can be, and he didn't know how he was going to cope, but he coped very well in the end. And these young guys can do that, and that's these young golfers winning majors. It happens every year, and obviously a lot of major winners these days are first timers too. That's just a trend, and I think maybe motivation for the guys who haven't won a major previously, it's just that much greater, that it counts for an awful lot when it comes to these major weeks. And although it might be too soon for Aaron Wise, at the 3-figure price, I think you just have to back it.
It was interesting listening to Schauffele talking after his third round at the Open, when he was asked how much belief he would take forward after his big PGA Tour win last year, and he said no, he's going to have to think about when he blew up and shot 75 the weekend before to fall out of contention. Yeah,
his words were like, I couldn't believe. I was listening to it on the radio on the way back home, and I just thought to myself, this lad's just going to play his way out of contention early, which he did, and then got back into it. But I was fearful going into the Sunday after those words. It just didn't sound too confident at all.
I was almost surprised in your tips ran up not to see Schauffele there, given how well he played in the Open Championship, and he's still available at kind of a 66 to 1 price, which could look promising given the guy seems to play so well in the big tournaments. Yeah,
he's got great results so far in major championships, like two top sixes in the US Open, and then obviously that at the Open last month. But the price is just about right for me, I think, and 66 to 1 or 50s just doesn't tempt me as much as what it did in the Open.
It'd be a huge effort to go close twice in 3 weeks, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and he's young enough where he could do it, obviously, and I think there's big things ahead for him, but his price is about right, and I'd rather back others at around the same price than him.
Well, this is where you get to tell me that my bets aren't so good. You got it spot on a couple of weekends ago, although I must say I did back Francesco after day 2, following you in a bit later at a bigger price. So, two, thank you, mate. Two for me. I just need to let everyone know that I have back to win.
Yeah, you got a bigger price.
Yeah,
got double the
price. Yeah. I am looking at Phil here, and I thought the days of backing Mickelson in major tournaments were probably over, but partly, I think he ranks 10th in your strokes gained from fairway to green. His putting is obviously very, very good from range as well, meaning that if he's not so accurate, he's the most inventive putter out there in terms of getting the ball down in 2 from distance. And he finished 4 under in that 2008 event we were talking about as well, so has a bit of history on the course, and he's 80 to 1. He's 120 to 1 on the exchanges as well, which just seemed, almost seems a bit noisy being that price, given that he, there's a quarter of that price going into the Open. Yeah, well, I
considered him for this week too, I have to say, and I agree with you that he's a big number.
But he might be dancing around the greens.
Yeah, exactly. He's definitely having a bit of a midlife crisis. But yeah, as you say, all parts of his game, should translate to this course, and it's certainly a big number considering some of the numbers he's went off in the previous majors this season. And his win, he obviously won in Mexico, the WGC, and interestingly enough, I thought Fleetwood, he finished second there 2 years ago, and I thought that course kind of, it was a 3-line track, even though it wasn't, and it was expected to suit the accurate golfers, even though Dustin Johnson won the previous year, bombing it, but he still kept it in play. With things add up with that course in Chapultepec to me, and obviously Mickelson won this year, and I wouldn't put anyone off backing him at that price, definitely not.
Getting one nearly a tick, like a tick with a kind of cross at the top of it, and next up Paul Casey. I mean, I can't believe I'm backing a player who basically can't win, but I seem to be doing that, and unless he's in the clubhouse about 2 hours before the others get in. But again, he seems to me absolutely tailor-made for this course. So accurate off the tee, can get it far enough down there where he'll have short irons in, and obviously one of the best short iron players in the world. At 50 to 1, especially with the place terms on offer, it just seems like and a guy who, you know, arguably in terms of consistency is one of the best players to this kind of track in the world.
Yeah, I wouldn't put you off there either. You know, you've got the win at the Feldspar earlier on in the season, and then he blew up obviously in the Travellers. You know, I had him tipped up, was waiting on the double with Wallace that week. But it pays to, you know, if you want to make money at this game, it pays to have a short memory, and you can't, you know, how many messages did I and you know, odds checker get that night about, you know, Poulter or Casey choking and he's a choker and blah blah blah, but you can't focus on those things solely, like, and obviously he has difficulties getting over the line plenty of time, yes, but nevertheless he's got over the line this year. You know, that's a big positive. Like, it's not easy to win a golf event, especially in PGA Tour. So it just pays to have a short memory, and anyone thinking, you know, you can't back Casey because, you know, he's a choker and he threw away that Travellers, it's definitely the wrong way of thinking. You know, he has all the tools to play well here this week, definitely.
Niall, I'm very excited now about Thursday. I can go into it with a shred of confidence. I'm very excited indeed. 2 more players, a major winner firstly in Bubba Watson, who it's fair to say has had a steady year, if not spectacular for him, but someone who comes into the event maybe as a bit of a sleeper. Yeah,
well, a steady, you know, he's maybe gone through a bit of a lull in the last 2 months, but previous to that, it was some season. You know, you're getting, you know, around 66 to 1 on the 60 to 1 mark for a guy who's won 3 times this year. Like that is incredible when you think about it. It's just recent form in the last few weeks, I think, that's maybe drifted him out to that price. But the course, like, it just looks set up for him too. You know, plenty of the holes are right to left, like Augusta, and his fade off the tee just it'll suit it down to the ground. But 31st last week at Firestone, it's not that bad of a result either. But that's what just recent form, I think, has contributed to that price. But if this was a regular tour event, and this course in particular, you look at the course just on paper, there's no way you would get that price about Watson this week, considering he's won 3 times this year on similar courses to the Travellers and, you know, the Genesis. Not too similar, but similar tests in a way, like the kind of classical, you know, tree-line golf courses. I just think he's a massive number. I don't see why he's that big.
Fair enough. Coming into it, tailor-made for him, Bubba Watson. And then last up, a player you tipped up for the Open Championship, and he, as ever, was his steady self whilst never really getting into contention. That's Kevin Na. I think it's just 0.75 points each way, so just a small one for you.
Yeah, I'm more hopeful and bullish about this one, like, to be honest.
Just can't watch him win unbacked.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, backed him at the Open, obviously, and he was going well for a couple of days. I think he was under par for the most of, you know, the first 36 holes, and then just faded over the weekend. I think he finished 51st. But he's another who's had a good season. A win a few weeks ago. One of the big trends in the PGA this last decade, 2 decades, is, you know, you have a win earlier on in the season, and he is one of them. I went into Greenbrier 3 starts ago, and as I said, but in the Open preview as well, that, you know, just that release of emotion, as we've seen, he was talking to the fans in the telly, and it could just result in some special results coming up, and it hasn't happened yet. He's only played 2 or 3 events since, so it's not an awful lot of time to judge that. But again, it's a tee to green track where, you know, Kevin excels and puts quite well when the pressure's on too, and just has a look at one of those players that could play well. And I think being at a slightly bigger number than what we backed him at the Open, it was just too tempting for me just to lay off, especially with the place terms and offer.
So there you have it, the 6 of Niall's 6 tips: Dustin Johnson, Tommy Fleetwood, Webb Simpson, Aaron Weiss, Bubba Watson and Kevin Na. Before we leave you, let's just have a quick chat about some of the kind of headline names that we haven't spoken about yet, and who are at the top of the market, starting with Rory McIlroy, who you've kind of mentioned could be quite good off the tee. I know he's been tipped up by some prominent tipsters out there, one of whom has been on our podcast before. What do you make of Rory's chances this week?
Every chance, of course, but I have to say I wasn't really tempted. Just this last number of weeks, the approach play has just been that average that I don't think it'll cut the mustard. That being said, he always works hard at it, McIlroy, and he'll be in the range with his coach, no doubt, and that'll be his main area of focus. You know, you'll watch the golf in the office over the week, and I don't know how many people will make the comment, McIlroy missing putts again, and you know this, that, and the other. Yeah. Putting isn't the issue. Like yes, he's an average putter, really speaking, compared to some, but streaky at the same time. He can be exceptional sometimes, but putting is not the issue. It's at the minute the reason why he isn't winning is the approach play. He's actually putting quite well in the last number of weeks. So yeah, he's got every chance. The price is about right for me too. But then, you know, with 10 places out there, you know, you can't see him out of the top 10 either. Otherwise, he's very rarely out of the top 10 anyway. So, you know, it's not a bad bet, but just doesn't really interest me.
And a sea of blue and odds checker, unsurprisingly as well, in the last 24 hours. And finally, just a word on Tiger Woods. This obviously looks like, well, it is his last chance to win a major this year. But he still looks in fairly decent form. A disappointing last weekend after what was a fantastic start. How do you rate his chances here?
Yeah, decent chance too. I think this is probably the biggest price he's gone off for a major this season. Obviously led the Open, you know, halfway through the back nine, or on just going into the back nine on the Sunday. I think he hit around 6-4. So it's just been the story of the year, hasn't it? He's just got into that position. Sometimes on the back nine, sometimes earlier on in the week, where, you know, you just think, this is Tiger Woods, and although you were doubtful in the begin with, you know, that he would come back and win an event, you know, he looks the type who when he's got into the lead, he's going to go and do this. He's going to get over the line, and every single time he's just been found lacking in some department, and it was a disappointing final 9 holes to the Open, really.
Not for you?
No, not for me, definitely not. Well, Dubai was the only one probably in the world cursing him when he took the lead, to be honest. But yeah, you know, it's one of those courses that might just play a bit long, and you know, if he doesn't hit it well off the tee, which has sometimes been the problem this year, he'll find it hard coming into these greens from the rough, just like kind of Firestone last week. If you're in the rough, you know, holding the greens was a nightmare. So yeah, he could play well again, probably just does play well again, and you know, a top 30 finish, and I can't really see him winning it.
So there you have it. Maybe not one for Tiger this time, but plenty of bets to be had there. And Dustin Johnson, the main one for Niall. Make sure you look at the Odds Checker site on our golf quiz to make sure you're getting the best bet, and you can see all the different bookies and the each way places as well. And obviously Niall's tips are up there. So if you haven't heard enough from him here, you can go and read what he's got to say as well.